Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you've had a fantastic Wednesday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about today are updates and continued fallout from the Roseanne Barr situation. Of course, yesterday we talked about the backlash against Roseanne for her tweet that many, including myself, found to be incredibly racist. You even had people that worked on the show speaking out against it, people like Wanda Sykes saying they'll never work on it again. ABC ends up canceling the show. Roseanne is dropped by her talent agency. And after all of this, there was a much smaller debate regarding if the tweet was racist or not. Some people yesterday messaged me saying that it wasn't racist because she didn't say that she was a monkey, that she was compared to someone in a movie. Because the apes and monkeys in that are fictional, it is not racist. But, and this is my opinion, that's an incredibly stupid argument. I mean, even Tomi Lahren has said that it was incredibly offensive. But then, of course, there was the much larger argument of should the show have been canceled or not. Some people saying you should just let the free market decide, don't just kill the show. Others saying, no, it's a private company, they can do whatever they want, and they're opting here for standards over numbers. And that is a debate that has continued. Many people saying, okay, well, if you're going to cancel Roseanne, what about all these other people who did these other things? And that double standard argument is something I want to touch on again in a minute or two. But the big update to the story revolved around Roseanne, who went on a tweeting/retweeting spree. She tried to explain that the offending tweet may have been the result of Ambien. Tweeting, I think Joe Rogan is right about Ambien, not giving excuses for what I did, tweeted, but I've done weird stuff while on Ambien, cracked eggs on the wall at 2 a.m., etc. That tweet has since been deleted, as well as another tweet that read, guys, I did something unforgivable, so do not defend me. It was 2 in the morning and I was Ambien tweeting. It was Memorial Day 2. I went too far and do not want it defended. It was egregious, indefensible. I made a mistake, I wish I hadn't, but don't defend it, please, thank you. And that explanation, or excuse depending on where you land, kind of fell short for a lot of people. Many mocking it, and even the pharmaceutical company behind Ambien tweeted, people of all races, religions, and nationalities work at Sanofi every day to improve the lives of people around the world. While all pharmaceutical treatments have side effects, racism is not a known side effect of any Sanofi medication. In 2018, even pharmaceutical companies are hitting people with clapbacks on Twitter. But also, at the same time, I can't leave that tweet uncontested. This show isn't about just attacking people and piling on. It's about showing you the situation. Sometimes I include my opinion, but really just showing you the situation. And what I would say to that company's tweet is, on your own website, you said that Ambien side effects include abnormal thinking and behavior changes, including decreased inhibition and bizarre behavior. So I'm just saying there are some holes in your clapback. Now, as far as was it the medication that caused this, I'm not really sold on that, because despite Roseanne having tweeted that what she did was indefensible, that it was wrong, she multiple times in a variety of ways tried to excuse her behavior. One of the angles she tried to play is that she did not realize Valerie Jarrett was black, seemingly trying to lean into the argument that, you know, you can compare a George Bush to a chimpanzee, it's not offensive, but if it's a black person, it is. I thought it was more of the George Bush kind of reference. But throughout the night, she couldn't keep her story straight. At one point saying she thought Jarrett was Saudi, another time saying she thought she was Jewish and Persian, another time saying she thought Jarrett was white. There was also a lot more, including even though she seemed to be trying to say, yes, it is 100% my fault this is happening, that she put the blame on Wanda Sykes, saying she made ABC nervous. To her former co-star Michael Fishman, she said, I created the platform for that inclusivity and you know it. Me. You throw me under the bus? Nice. She also went on to retweet some fake images, including this one of Whoopi Goldberg. Turns out the shirt was photoshopped. She later retracted that retweet. She also retweeted this fake bit on Valerie Jarrett. She also reached out directly to Valerie Jarrett to apologize. And today this story even gained the attention of President Trump, who tweeted, Bob Iger of ABC called Valerie Jarrett to let her know that ABC does not tolerate comments like those made by Roseanne Barr. Gee, he never called President Donald J. Trump to apologize for the horrible statements made and said about me on ABC. Maybe I just didn't get the call. And personally, I think that tweet, that statement is very telling of where this debate ultimately will land. Comparisons of what happens to people when they're more liberal, more conservative, and insert blank thing happen. People pointing to the controversies around Joy Behar, Joy Reid, Keith Olbermann also comes to mind. And it ultimately makes sense that it landed here, because once again, it really appears to only be the most detached from reality that are defending her statement. Also, to those people, thank you for the view on yesterday and now today's video, as well as the dislike. Any engagement is engagement. You hitting that dislike button is not going to change the reality of the situation or me covering things like this in the future. I mean, you even had Bill O'Reilly saying, Roseanne Barr's vicious personal attack on former Obama senior advisor Valerie Jarrett came out of nowhere and cost Miss Barr and the entire staff of her program their jobs. ABC/Disney could not continue with the show without insulting millions of Americans. Later adding, by attacking Valerie Jarrett in a gross personal way, Miss Barr sent a signal to the nation's 13 million African Americans that white racism is indeed alive and well. But then also pivoting to ask the question, is there a double standard? And honestly, looking out to the left and the right, I think there are some apple-to-apple comparisons that there is a legitimate argument there. Some apples to oranges doesn't really make sense. But with that said, I do want to pass the question off to you. where do you land on this story? Whether it be with Roseanne's kind of excuses slash explanations slash general behavior, as well as the argument of double standards. Where do you see it? Where do you not? I'd love to know your thoughts. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, of course, a fantastic app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets for live events, whether it be comedy shows, concerts, sporting events. They put all the tickets in one place. They give them 0 to 100 scores so you know if you're getting a good deal or not. I've got the app on my phone, and it is by far the easiest way to shop for tickets, whether it be something in the future or something I kind of need now. And it's a great time to try it out. Baseball season's back, Childish Gambino, Drake, Taylor Swift, the Eagles. How dare the people that mocked me for saying the Eagles last time. Those and more are all on sale right now, so if you want to make the smart move like many from the nation have, go to SeatGeekPhil.com, download the app, and make sure you use offer code PHIL to get $20 off your first ticket purchase. And the first bit of awesome today is we got the announcement and trailer for brand new Pokemon games. Trailers that have footage that I'm not showing in this video because Nintendo has not the best history when it comes to claiming videos. That said, I'm excited, I'm hopeful, and worst case scenario, it looks like it's something that I could end up playing with my kid. Then we got the official teaser trailer for Fallout 76. We got the Honest Games trailer for Subnautica. We had John Cena teaching you trucker slang. We had Dan Harmon breaking down some of the biggest Rick and Morty moments. And the last bit of awesome is not necessarily even awesome, it's more just me taking an opportunity to make an announcement. Tomorrow or Friday will be the last Philip DeFranco show shot on this set in this office. We're moving into a brand new, bigger, better studio that's gonna allow us to make, on top of the Philip DeFranco show, so much more. A lot of the stuff that we've been kind of building the bones of for the past year. And of course, like with any move, it's caused a lot of insanity behind the scenes. It's why sometimes it's taken us longer to get to certain topics. It's why sometimes there has not been a Friday show just to try and manage the move. Worst case scenario on Friday, if we don't get out a regular show, I think I'll do just a live stream from the new office so you can see the new facility. But yeah, I just want to give you a little heads up since, you know, the internet always responds very, very well to any change. For example, earlier this week when I decided to just kind of fuck with you, when I called you beauties and you were like, how dare you? But yeah, and if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, anything I talk about today, links as always are in the description down below. Then in random people in mainstream media making YouTubers look bad news, we jump to Orlando. This because on Monday, 22-year-old Dylan Birch told guests at Walt Disney World's Contemporary Resort that there was an active shooter inside the hotel. Reportedly, he went around approaching guests, telling them that there was an emergency, that they needed to evacuate. He told other guests that the hotel was on lockdown because of a shooting. So naturally, people began to panic. Of course, people did the right thing. They called the authorities, who ended up going to the hotel. And of course, none of it was real. The manager for the hotel went over to Birch, who reportedly said that he was working on a school project in which he had to record people's reaction when they find out there was an emergency happening. The manager then tells him, you can't do that. The deputies are on the way. They want to talk with you. Birch says, I'm going to leave on my own, asked him not to follow him. He walks out of the hotel lobby, and that's when he saw deputy lights and began to run into the parking lot. And eventually, hotel security later found Birch hiding in a row of bushes on the property and called deputies over. And the authorities searched him. They found a beer in his backpack. According to eyewitness reports, he was highly intoxicated. Birch ended up being charged with disturbing the peace at a public lodging and disorderly intoxication. He was evicted from his hotel room and banned from the Walt Disney World property. He appeared in court yesterday. He pled no contest to both charges, and he was sentenced to 3 days in jail. And at this point, you may be wondering, but Phil, at no point have you mentioned that he is a YouTuber. And that's because despite all of the headlines, he doesn't appear to be a YouTuber. Literally, the only part where YouTube is mentioned in this story is that reportedly he told guests and a staff member after he freaked them the hell out that this was all for YouTube. If you try to find him on YouTube, he does not pop up. Instead, it's like another YouTuber's workout video. And I found even in the articles that note that specific thing, they still titled it a highly intoxicated YouTuber. He's not ours, and it's ridiculous to even try and pair him to us. That's like if a 16-year-old with a Tumblr that no one went to did some horrible stuff and they were like, oh no, I'm doing it for a report, and all the headlines read, highly intoxicated journalist did blah, blah, blah. It's annoying and stupid, especially because, I mean, I love YouTube. There's no shortage of more accessible stupid you could go after, yet people do this. Whatever, you trash, let's move on. And then let's talk about an update around the active shooter video game story that we covered earlier this week. And if you didn't see the story, there was a lot of controversy, a lot of outrage around this game because it allowed people to play both the SWAT team member, but also the school shooter. The game description even saying that a civilian survival mode would be added later. And many were disgusted that in the wake of all these school shootings, anyone would be developing a game like this. On Monday, the Change.org petition calling for Valve to stop the game from launching had around 20,000 signatures. As of this morning, it now has over 200,000. But of course, that's just an online petition, and it was unclear what was going to happen with the game until last night when Valve released a statement saying, we have removed the developer Revived Games and publisher Acid from Steam. Adding, this developer and publisher is in fact a person calling himself Ata Beriev, who had previously been removed last fall when he was operating as BC Interactive and Elusive Team. Ata is a troll with a history of customer abuse, publishing copyrighted material, and user review manipulation. And so it was that discovery during their investigation that led them to the removal, not necessarily the content itself. Although on the note of content policy, they did add, the broader conversation about Steam's content policies is one that we'll be addressing soon. And it'll be interesting to see what they end up saying, but as far as the core story here, having learned this, it does appear that this was kind of someone maybe trying to make money via outrage marketing. Essentially, the idea could be making a low-quality asset flip game very quickly, essentially planning on there being a lot of outrage, but then knowing that because people do not like censorship or things being pulled or being told what to do, that people will buy this game just to say they did. And there's definitely money to be made from people who want to kind of give the bird to politicians who say video games cause violence. Which actually, side note, some politicians aren't just taking aim at video games. We tend to see Republican Representative Diane Black in the news because she said this.
Why do we see kids being so violent? What's out there? What makes them do that? Because there's a nurse on the back of the root cause. And I think there's a couple. Pornography. It's available. It's available on the shelf when you walk in the grocery store. Yeah, you have to reach out to get it, but there's pornography there. All of this is available without parental guidance. And I think that is a big part of the root cause.
We also saw some adult actresses speaking out against this claim, including Alana Evans. She tweeted, "You can blame us for a lot of things, but no, porn is not the cause of school shootings. Stop blaming us for the problems of society. It's just sex." And I have to say to that, and obviously this is my opinion here, I find the argument both incredibly stupid, but also adorable, that her idea of pornography in 2018 is a top shelf Playboy at a grocery store. And I'm not going to completely defend all pornography. I think there's a lot of it that sets up unrealistic expectations. There's some stuff that's sketchy, but to use that as part of the answer to why are kids being so violent, that's ludicrous. Even if you don't want to take on the gun debate, that's not even on the table there. There's the over-medication of children and plenty of other things that you can get to before pornography. But that's where I'll leave it and pass the question off to you with both stories. What are your thoughts here? And then let's talk about one of the craziest stories today coming out of Ukraine. And this story revolves around Arkady Babchenko, a 41-year-old Russian journalist who had to flee Russia for fear of his life. To give you a little background, he studied law at the age of 18 in Moscow. He was conscripted into the Russian army. He served during the Chechen Wars from 1994 to 2000. After his time in the military, he then worked as a war correspondent. He wrote several books. He won multiple literary awards. Then, December 2016, he writes this Facebook post about a transport plane carrying the Red Army Choir to Syria that crashed. In that post, he says he felt no regret about the deaths of the choir members. In a piece for The Guardian, he defended himself, saying, "I didn't call for anything or insult anyone. I just reminded my readers that Russia was indiscriminately bombing Aleppo without recognizing that dozens of children were dying in those bombs. I also called Russia an aggressor. After all these wars and deaths, I felt only one thing when I heard that the representatives of Russia's military had died: indifference." But the main point is that Facebook post essentially pushed him out of the country. He said his address was published online, his family had received death threats, and as a result, he left Russia in 2017, first moving to Prague, then to Kiev, Ukraine. There he was working as a presenter on a Ukrainian TV station. But this past Tuesday, on his way back from the grocery store, he was reportedly murdered outside of his apartment. Ukrainian police confirming Babchenko's death, saying he was shot several times in the back. According to police, his wife said she was in the bathroom when she heard what sounded like several loud claps. The wife finds him bleeding. He ends up dying of his wounds in the ambulance. The Kiev police chief told local media that they suspected his murder was connected to his professional activities. On Wednesday, police released a sketch of a man with a beard and a baseball cap, but did not name the suspect. As you would imagine, reactions around the world were immediate and strong. We saw people putting pictures of Babchenko on the Russian embassy's fence in Kiev. Ukraine's prime minister accused Russia of being behind the murder. We also saw Russia call for an investigation into the death of Babchenko, and its foreign ministry said in a statement, "We demand that the Ukrainian authorities make every effort to promptly investigate." The head of Russia's internal security service, the FSB, referring to the allegations against Russia as nonsense and a provocation. And today, at a press conference to discuss the details of the investigation, the craziest thing happened. The head of the Ukrainian security service said that they had solved Babchenko's murder and then invited him into the room. He was very much alive, very much well. As far as how, why, they said that they had to fake his death to catch the people that were actually trying to kill him. There was a real threat, but he was not really killed yesterday. And together with Ukrainian police, the Ukrainian security service staged the death. And they also said that the killing was ordered by Russian security services themselves, adding that investigators identified a Ukrainian citizen functioning as a middleman to then find someone to kill Babchenko. $30,000 for the killer, $10,000 for the intermediary, and with that they showed a video of the arrest. And while everything isn't clear right now, like how the murder was staged, how it led to the suspect's apprehension, who all was in on it, what we do know is that it reportedly was planned for at least a month, and his wife was apparently not in on it. Now, in response to this, the Russian Foreign Ministry said that they were happy that Babchenko was alive, but also a spokesperson for the ministry said that this was done for propagandistic effect. We also saw other criticism, like Andrei Soldatov. He's a writer and expert on Russian security services. He tweeted, "Sorry guys, to me it's crossing a line big time. Babchenko is a journalist, not a policeman, for Christ's sake, and part of our job is trust. Whatever Trump and Putin say about fake news. I'm glad he is alive, but he undermined even further the credibility of journalists and the media." And ultimately where I land on this, with what the last person said, I get what they're saying, but if the police came to me and said, someone's gonna try to kill you, you gotta play along. I'm gonna play along. Well, big fan of Being Alive. It has its downsides, but I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Sucks that the current version of the game has permadeath, but you know, you take what you can get. And that's where I'm going to end today's show. And of course, with this being the Philip DeFranco Show, I give you the news, sometimes my opinion, and then I want to hear from you, whether it be the last story, the first one, anything in between. Let me know what you're thinking in those comments down below. Also, while you're at it, if you like my show, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, maybe even ring that bell. Also, if you missed yesterday's show and you want to catch up, click or tap right there to watch that. Or if you want something a little bit lighter, you can watch today's brand new behind the scenes vlog. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.